So it's now 5:30 in the morning, and as you could tell, I am at the airport next to my plane. And this is a very rare occasion because I'm up before the sun is. And I usually wake up late, like around 9ish, I would say. But the crazy thing about it is that if I am awake before the sun is, then that means I'm up for a reason. And today, well, let's just say that it's a special day.
And it's true. There was a very good reason why I broke my sleep schedule and was up before the sun. After all these years, I can finally say that I'm going to Walt Disney World. Here's the thing. Despite being a lifelong Disney fan, I haven't been in Disney World for over a decade. Sure, I had a bit of my Disney park fix around 5 years ago when I went to Disneyland, but it's been far too long since the last time I visited one of my favorite places in the world. And when I heard some family members were planning to get together for a trip there, I knew I couldn't miss that opportunity, especially when it's been 4 years since I had a proper vacation. And after going through the pandemic and constantly working on my videos, I think I'm due for a good break. So here's what's happening. I'll be joining 11 of my family, which includes my mom, a couple of my aunts, some cousins, and their children, in order to have the time of our lives during our trip. And to make sure that does happen, we got a secret weapon that allowed us to make that a guarantee. On top of using Genie Plus, 2 of my family were given the Disability Access System, which gives all of us an extra pass so that we'll be able to go through the lightning lanes more frequently. And thanks to this video, you're joining us for the ride. By the way, I am aware that there are some residents of Florida that are being continuously attacked and getting their rights taken away from them. That's why they'll need all the help and support they can get, and I'd like to contribute to that. So if you'd like to help the people of Florida to protect their freedom, then check out the link in the description. So keep your arms and legs inside at all times and watch your children, because our journey is about to begin. And it all started when we got to our hotel, which very fittingly for me was the Art of Animation Resort. And right when you enter the lobby, you can immediately see how the walls pay tribute to the making of the medium. Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna like it here. And yet, we only entered the place and already I received my first taste of magic. Originally, me and my mom were supposed to have a room in the Little Mermaid wing. Something simple with just 2 beds and a few drawers to put our stuff in. But then we were given a free upgrade to the Cars wing and opened the doors to our home for the week. Technically, this is meant to be a room for a family of 4 and 6, but for just me and my mom, this is like a luxury suite and the first sign of how our trip was gonna be. Now, since we were all up since around 4 in the morning, we weren't ready to immediately jump into a park. Instead, we took it easy and started off by going to Disney Springs. As it was our first time here in years, we were pretty shocked by how it changed since the days as Downtown Disney, especially when it was given this new Rodeo Drive architecture. But our first stop there was to go and grab a bite at the T-Rex restaurant, which is pretty much the dinosaur version of Rainforest Cafe with simple animatronics and random things happening with the lights and sounds. But it did provide us with the food of the day. Following afterwards, we entered into the marketplace where we found what we were more familiar with in the area and did our first round of shopping.
They got the soap dispensers. Wait, and it's on sale? Really? Well, don't mind if I do.
Oh, by the way, here's a little tip. If you're gonna go and buy one of those dispensers, make sure you empty it before you get back to the airport to go home. Believe me, I learned that the hard way. Of course, we didn't go everywhere in Springs. I'd say we checked around half of it, but in our condition, that was enough to be the activity of the day. Once we headed back to our hotel, I wanted to go and explore more of the place and its animation tribute. On top of the 4 movies that encompasses the theme with concept art and storyboards, not to mention the extravagant chandelier, There's an arcade, a shop that's all about ink and paint, and a cafeteria filled with landscape art.
So now that I am back relaxing in my room, I gotta say that even though I have yet to go into any of the parks yet, my first day of this trip is amazing. And you know, the amazing thing about all this is that somehow I had a great start, and I know for a fact that it's only gonna go up from here. Like, with the next days, I'm going to be going into the parks like the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. And it's going to be a heck of an amazing time. So, overall, even though I am tired, especially from waking up at 4 in the morning, I could definitely feel the tiredness like really coming in now. But I gotta say, so far, so great.
Now that we've settled ourselves in Disney World, it was time to officially start our adventure and head to our first park at the Magic Kingdom. While it was intimidating to see so many people right at the gate, I was excited to get in. Maybe this is a small thing compared to going in the rides, but this was one of the moments I've been waiting for several years. After being so far apart for so long, I'm finally reunited with Cinderella's castle.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
Now that we're in, we started by going down to Tomorrowland, and our first ride we jumped into was Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. Might as well have everyone start off with something light and easy by shooting the flat cutouts. I'll admit that I didn't have my best round that day. I may need a bit more practice before I can call myself a galactic hero. After that match, we went up to get a nice view at Astro Orbiter, and then took a drive at the Tomorrowland Speedway. And while my driving skills were not as impressive, because, trust me, it's a lot harder to drive that than a real car.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, you're not!
I can take the wheel. No, I can do it. I can multitask.
I got iPad!
I'll have better practice at home with my car.
Let's hear it. You're crashing all over the place.
I'm okay.
We then went into a different type of vehicle at the Mad Teacups. Sure, it's a simple spinning ride, but that has always been a childhood favorite of mine. And if you're gonna make me spin, then I'm gonna spin.
When I spin. Okay. Did I spin too much?
Once we had our spin, we walked from one side of the kingdom to the next.
Okay. This is a tradition me and my family do. As you can see here, we touch the castle.
We finally made it!
We are here. Hello, old friend. What's the next ride again?
I don't know, but we have to find our yellow shirts.
Ah, schnut. Okay, let's go.
Even passing by some bears and the closed down Splash Mountain. I'm not gonna lie, I've always loved going into this the last few times I've been here, and I will miss it for sure, but at the same time, I am pretty excited to see how Tiana will give this the makeover that it does need. So that will be one of the things to look forward to the next time I return. Anyways, we decided to tour around the park on the railroad, then head into the jungle on the Jungle Cruise. Our skipper did a good job, and it was cool to see the new updates, but I will admit that we were a loud bunch and we didn't completely hear all the jokes. After that, we decided to pause to grab a bite to eat, and then we headed towards Pirates of the Caribbean. No denying that this ride is awesome, but now that I've been on the Disneyland version, now I get why some say that the California one is better. Sure, the queue is cooler, but this really is a shortened version. It's like I had around half of what I had before. Anyways, we then walked all the way back to Tomorrowland, where we entered into one of Disney's bigger rides, Space Mountain. Believe it or not, I'm not a major thrill ride fan, but with this trip, I decided to gather some courage and try new things, and Space Mountain was one of them.
So this will be my first time on Space Mountain, believe it or not. And I'm not gonna lie, a little nervous. We'll see how it goes. So I did it! I finally rode Space Mountain for the first time, and I will admit a lot of it is just like my personal nerves of not knowing what's to come, but it was definitely exhilarating, I gotta say that. Although since I had my glasses off, I barely saw anything, but yeah. Now I can say I've done Space Mountain. I did it!
We then relaxed at the Monsters Inc. laugh floor to give ourselves a bit of a cool-off, since the next ride is another roller coaster type, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Honestly, I like this one better because not only was it a little less intense, but it was also more fun with the cart's unique tilts and seeing the dwarves at work, even with their weird projected faces. After that, I was on my own for a bit so that I could do more filming and taking pictures, but then the family texted me for some help at Liberty Square. Okay, I'll just head on over and see what they need and... Which reminds me, you know what's good for a near panic attack? Food! So we went down to Tony's restaurant to get ourselves a good meal. I only got the typical spaghetti and meatballs, but it did do the job to refuel myself for the rest of the day. And that was exactly what we needed because we got the memo that it was our turn to try out their latest attraction, Tron Light Cycle Run. It technically didn't open yet, but when it was our turn to enter the grid, we were blown away.
Just got out of Tron. That thing was amazing. Like the right amount of like exhilaration and speed and theming. Oh my god, this is a true winner right over here.
I'll even say now that out of all the rides at Disney World, my family unanimously agreed that this was our favorite. After that thrill, we spent some time at Fantasyland to go around some of the rides in there, like Peter Pan's Flight.
You're not telling me you're excited? This is as thrilling as Tron?
No.
Mickey's PhilharMagic, which was a lot of fun and great to see the new Coco segment, and It's a Small World, which I already enjoyed the ride, but now I like it because it reminds me of Epic Mickey. Then we took a spin on Aladdin's Magic Carpet, and then did another thrill ride for my first time on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It was honestly not as big as I thought, since it was mostly just the train spinning around, but I did have a good time. Then, as the sun was resting, we decided to go into Enchanted Tales with Belle, which was a cute show mainly for the kids, but I was surprised to find myself to be a part of the story as one of the guards. Hey, at least I got a cool bookmark and a nice photo with Belle alongside my cousin Nick. Following afterwards, we went from seeing one princess to the next at Under the Sea. And I don't know what adventure she went to, but I'm sure Ariel has seen better days. But as it was night, it was time to get our spot and experience our first nighttime show of the trip, Enchantment. I know it's not the best fireworks show from the Magic Kingdom, and it's true that it is more of a best of Disney clip show more than it is a celebration of Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary that it should be, but when watching it live, I can't help but be immersed in the magic. There's just something about these shows, regardless of what it is, that are so inspiring and help me believe that my dreams can come true. It was a beautiful way to cap off our day. It was exhausting, but we were left amazed at what we were able to do in that one day alone. When the next day arrived, instead of riding the bus, we hopped on board our first Skyliner, which was a nice experience where it was less crowded and got to see some nice views from all around Disney World, as we headed to our next park at Epcot. And since we first landed at the World Showcase entrance, our first ride we went into was...
Aha! Bonjour, small person! Today we are cooking... Right!
And while this one was mainly watching a bunch of giant screens, the atmosphere was beautiful and really nailed the Ratatouille look. Afterwards, since Epcot is notorious for being big with not a lot of rides filling the space, we pretty much walked all around the world and admired some of the topiaries because it was the Flower and Garden Festival, and went to our next destination, Norway, where we entered into Frozen Ever After. This may be a hot take, but despite the weird face projections like the Seven Dwarfs, this is still a great update compared to before. In fact, I've already mentioned this in a previous video, and I'd much rather be in a more cheerful environment where Elsa is telling me, "Welcome to my magical kingdom," than a literal troll yelling, "Get the out of my house!" As we were done visiting Anna and Elsa, we headed down to go into one of Epcot's bigger rides, Mission Space. Despite all the backlash it got, when I was a kid, I remember enjoying this as one of Disney's big thrill rides that I like to do. I didn't think much of it, but then when I got into that ship...
Those who are prone to motion sickness or made uncomfortable by enclosed dark spaces, simulators, or spinning should bypass this experience.
Not gonna lie, Mission Space was a lot more intense than I remember. Like, it was definitely fun, but after getting out and just like walking back to here, I felt like my stomach was just like unsettled. So yeah, I think it's safe to say I'm not gonna be eating now, and I'll try to go in more calmer rides this time just to relax until we go into the next big thing.
Yeah, let's just say that space did not go well with the adults, including myself. I like to spin, but that was too much spin there. Obviously, we want to wind down after that, so our next ride was the park's icon, Spaceship Earth. It did help settle our stomachs while watching the history of communication come to life, but could the ride let us know if they're gonna take our picture? Otherwise...
Why do I look so disinterested in this? Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely fine.
Now that we were prepared to get back into the big stuff, the next stop was Test Track. I was always more curious about this one because I knew they made major updates to this since the last time I was here, especially now that it's all about building a customizable car. Here's what me and my cousin Ian created. Sure, this alone can burn a hole in the ozone layer, but this has the power of a tank and the speed of a rocket. But enough about cars. We got a ticket to Xandar next as we head straight into Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. This was probably the longest wait that we had to go through, but everything about it was worth it because this is a shining example of the term latest and greatest. The queue is highly immersive with a Xandar exhibition, the story is great to get us in that Guardian spirit, and the ride itself...
Just got out of Cosmic Rewind, and I gotta say, like, it's a little more intense than most of the other rides, but still really crazy, wonderful, cute, and overall, it rocks.
Overall, definitely one of Epcot's best. Speaking of which, we then walked all the way to the other side to get into the land and rode another of their greats, Soarin'. I've already done the new global version at California. I loved it there and I loved it here. Always a nice time to see the sights, the smells, and of course, Patrick Warburton.
That's work, pal.
Once we saw the world through the air, we went back seeing the world on foot as we headed to Japan and ate at Teppan Edo. I don't always eat at hibachi places, but when I do, I savor every moment, and it became one of my favorite places to eat at Disney World, especially when you have a chef who is so nice and fun. Once we had our food, we then went for another round of Ratatouille and met up with my old buddy Figment at Journey into Imagination. And when I rode this with my family, it was honestly an interesting experience. I know this ride is weak compared to its highly beloved original, and Figment's early CG is the funniest thing in this attraction, but I was surprised to see my family really getting into it, both the kids and adults. In a way, riding it with them kinda made me understand a bit to why Disney kept this version for over 20 years. Guess there's still some charm to it that could still make people love the Purple Dragon. Oh, that's nothing. You should see me sell popcorn buckets. Then we went to the other corner of the park where we caught up with Nemo and friends at the seas. We rode the clam and watched what can be best described as Finding Nemo, except now the little prick is doing it on purpose.
There's a little glitch there.
And then entertained the kids by watching Turtle Talk with Crush.
What's your question?
I don't know.
What a coincidence. I don't know what it is either.
Despite a few hours to spare in our time, we decided to split up where one group went to go and ride Test Track again, while me and the others decided to go shopping at the Creator Shop to grab a few things like some shirts. But then the sun was down and it was time to go save a spot to watch Epcot's nighttime show, Harmonious. And since there was plenty of time to spare, I decided to get some nice photo ops in the meantime. I'll admit that my family may not have picked the best spot because we were completely on the side of the big circle and saw nothing of what it projected, and this really was just an international Disney clip show, but it was still very nice to watch nonetheless, on top of a good use of Hunchback's deleted song Someday. Admittedly, this was the most tiring day because of all the walking to the point that it gave me back pain, but I did learn how to prevent that in the next days, and the fact that we did almost everything again was worth it. Now the next day was another day we were looking forward to the most because we took the Skyliner again to Disney's Hollywood Studios. There are a lot of big name new rides here, which is why the park can often get very crowded, but with our passes, we were able to bypass that issue and walk our way in the lightning lanes like... Once we got ourselves in Toy Story Land, our first ride of the day was Slinky Dog Dash. It's the standard kiddie coaster, but I can't help but love what they did with the theming with not just the ride, but also the entirety of the place with all the giant boxes and toys. But the big moment was afterwards when we went to the other side and took our first steps in Galaxy's Edge. This was a major moment because some of my family members are huge Star Wars fans, and we took the chance to get into Rise of the Resistance. Not good.
Okay, out of all the rides here, this is honestly easily among the best. Oh my god, Rise of the Resistance. Maybe this is a bit of an exaggeration and I just got out of it, but it's one of the best Star Wars things ever. Like, oh my god.
Safe to say that we all loved it. Afterwards, my personal excitement was getting higher and higher as we took a break right next to my favorite ride, Muppet Vision 3D. But we were not going in there yet. Instead, we entered the Chinese theater to go on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I'll admit that, like Splash Mountain, I will miss the Great Movie Ride, but that was in desperate need of an update anyways, and the ride was a lot of fun and definitely captured the fast pace and crazy tone of the new Mickey Mouse cartoons. Even loved how the theater invites you into the cartoon world.
Oh, hiya, folks. Want to take a ride on the train?
We then jumped from the cartoon world to the movie-making world as we took our seats to watch Indiana Jones' Epic Stunt Spectacular. Me and my mom were surprised that they took out the audience participation part, but it is still an enjoyable show on how they make blockbusters. Following afterwards, some of my family headed over to one of the park's classic rides, the Twilight Zone of Tower of Terror. Admittedly, I didn't feel ready to go in, but then again, from what I've heard, the lineup and going in the ride itself was not a hit, especially with the kids. Also,
You know, the one thing about Tower of Terror that kind of confuses me, especially nowadays, how did this become the icon of Disney Hollywood Studios?
in the meantime, me and some family who didn't go decided to wait them all at Galaxy's Edge. We ended up with a lot of time on our hands, since apparently the lineup at Tower of Terror was way too long, so we explored around the area that we didn't go yet, and we were just amazed at how it was built like an entire city. Seriously, you could almost spend a whole day just on Galaxy's Edge alone. Then again, with how long the lineups can be, I'm probably not wrong. Anyways, when the rest of my family returned, we went for another round of Rise of Resistance because it was that good, and then head on to the other Galaxy's Edge ride, Smuggler's Run. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that impressive animatronic of Space Jim Cummings, but me and my team were able to do well. I think. We managed to come out alive with 31% health and brought 2 cargoes with us.
You retrieve 2 containers of coaxium. This would greatly help the resistance.
Next up, we were going down to not Muppets.
We keep walking past this left and right, jumping from one Star Wars ride to the next. I feel like I'm getting teased so far.
And headed to the other Star Wars ride outside of Black Spire Outpost, Star Tours. Again, with a Star Wars loving family, this one is also a classic and gave us a good chance to see some of the new places from the sequels like Crate. But at the same time, we were getting hungry and decided to go into the sci-fi dine-in, where the only thing cheesier than the burgers were the movies they were showing like Plan 9 from Outer Space, and not just any Tom and Jerry cartoon, but a Gene Deitch Tom and Jerry cartoon, so you know there's some good cinema in here. But once that was over, my family wanted to go and watch the Beauty and the Beast show next to Tower of Terror. However, me and my mom already saw it many times before, and considering we already had our fill of the story with Enchanted Tales with Belle, we chose to split up from them until their show is done. Which means... no more waiting, no more teasing. There was one ride that I've been waiting for over 10 years to get into, and now the time has arrived and my patience was rewarded. I finally returned to Muppet Vision 3D. And even if I already knew the show almost by heart, I was the happiest I've been in years. And coming back to this ride alone made this entire trip worth it.
So the bad news is, apparently the Muppet store is closed. The good news is, I may have saved hundreds of dollars just on merch alone.
Once I had that moment of pure joy, we then checked out the Walt Disney Presents Museum, which I've already loved to check out as a Disney fan / historian, but I'll admit that it's a lot smaller than I remember.
What the? Uh-oh. Disney, you missed a spot.
Afterwards, we then went back to Galaxy's Edge again and reunited with my family to enter Oga's Cantina. We had to wait a bit, but during that time, I actually got in a bit of trouble for my filming.
What are you doing with that?
Just, you know.
Sending data to the resistance?
No. Listen, I'm a long time lover of the First Order. A long time lover, trust me. It's for an admiration post. You know, the First Order admiration post, don't you follow?
Break the encryption.
No?
Or break
Well, it's a
the
new thing,
data
don't worry,
back.
you will. I'll send you the link
Get
later.
back. Good.
Yeah, so don't worry about it.
Enjoy your day now.
Oh yes, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh shoot, I forgot to send him the link. But anyways, we did get in and all got a drink and sat right next to the familiar DJ.
Here we go. Hello, folks. I'm DJ Rex. This may be your first time here, and it's mine too.
As for the drinks, we all got some interesting ones, but I went with the Fuzzy Tauntaun, which did hit all the right fruity tones, even if the fuzzy part was weird. Afterwards, some of my family went back to the hotel and we decided to go and have a round at Toy Story Mania. I remembered how quick this game can be, so I prepared my arm and I think I did pretty well if I do say so myself. Then the rest of the family went, which leaves me and my mom alone again. And in that case, we went back to Muppet Vision 3D, this time with the intent of doing some additional filming. Not for this video, but let's just say that I'll be saving these for another project. But our time here was done with not much else to do, so we walked around the shops for a bit, I then checked around the Cars decor that's in my part of the hotel, and then went to sleep. Of course, with 3 down, we got one more park to take over, Animal Kingdom. And with kids involved, where did we go first?
Dinosaur Park!
And as we go help Dr. Seeker to get that dino, going through this left me shocked of how dark the ride was, like...
What just happened?
No, seriously, what just happened? I can't see.
Then, once we returned to the present, we headed over to the park's icon and went inside to go and watch It's Tough to Be a Bug, which I think might need some maintenance because I remember those animatronics being in better shape than this. But if I needed something to be impressed at, then our next stop was the perfect place as we headed over to Pandora, and our first ride there was the Flight of Passage. Sure, some may say that this is Avatar Soarin', but still, it's wickedly awesome to fly around Pandora on a Banshee, even with the sensations it gives on your thighs. Trust me, you'll understand when you ride it. I am aware of how weird that sounds. But then after that, we went next door to ride Pandora's other attraction, the Na'vi River Journey, where we began by admiring the stuff we didn't do.
Look at the lovely view of what we're not doing. Isn't that wonderful?
And then admire what we saw. Sure, it's avatars living with the land, but how the world came to life around us is very nice. Not to mention seeing the most incredible animatronic to date. Seriously, it's at the levels of freaky how good the shaman looks. Once we did Pandora's rides, we then had a character buffet at Tusker House, where we grabbed what we want to eat and took photos with the characters who came by at our table. And after our meal, we then went back to Pandora because we wanted to do Flight of Passage again to fly and have those things rub on our thighs. I swear, it all makes sense when you go in. But then the family wanted some more action. So we went to the other side and headed to Expedition Everest. Again, I waited on the side because I wasn't ready for this one. And apparently neither were the ones who went on it. So you can guess that we wanted something easier next, which was why we watched the Festival of the Lion King, and even got some good seats to see the show. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention was that our time at the Animal Kingdom was the hottest day of our trip. Even with our matching shirts, me and my mom brought some sleeveless ones in case. But with no Splash Mountain, we went to the next best splashing ride, Kali River Rapids, and it certainly delivered on what we needed. Let's just say that I'm glad I didn't bring my phone to film the ride. Otherwise, this vlog would have ended here. So once we dried up a bit, we went to our final ride on our list, the Kilimanjaro Safari, which we got pretty lucky to see a bunch of animals who showed up, even an ostrich holding traffic. But then, believe it or not, that was it. It was around 5 p.m. and we've done virtually everything in this kingdom. So after I took some pictures I wanted to take, we left the park and returned to our hotel where we relaxed at the Finding Nemo pool, on top of admiring the decor all around it. However, the day wasn't done yet, but my family already called it quits. Well, I still had some energy in me, so I decided to go to Disney Springs alone, where I did some extra shopping and found an intriguing display.
What the fridge? Disney is offering the cuisine of my people? Disney, what the fridge are you offering in this thing? You got one thing that is put in and the rest I don't even understand. What is that?
Also, I decided to check the areas we didn't go the first time in the West Side, and I swear, they should have still kept the name of Downtown Disney because it really felt like a real downtown, complete with the nightlife keeping things up. So once I was satisfied with my day, I went back to bed so that I could start the next by returning to the Magic Kingdom. Once again, me and my mom separated from the rest of the family because they were bringing the kids to the Bippity Boppity Boutique and then ate in the castle. We already did that last time, so we decided to have our breakfast at the newer dining place, the Be Our Guest restaurant. And honestly, this was the fanciest breakfast we've ever had yet. Not only is the place beautiful by perfectly recreating the famous ballroom, and even having the Beast himself pop up to say hi, but even our meal to start our day was unbelievable with escargots, a filet mignon, and a bunch of desserts. And yes, including the gray stuff. To this day, we are shocked that we had all this as a breakfast.
Alright, this is a big moment. Gonna actually try the gray stuff. So let's see how it is.
Looks green to me.
Well, I mean, depends on the lighting. It's quite nice. I like it.
Love it.
Once we all reunited, we returned to do some of our favorite coasters again, like Tron and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. But then we went to the Barnstormer. Out of everything we've done in our trip, that was the only one I'd say that it sucked. The lady in the front made us wait like 15 minutes just to go through the entrance, the ride was facing some technical difficulties when it was our turn, and when we rode it, the kiddie coaster lasted for like 20 seconds. Sure, we loved every minute of what we did, but the Barnstormer was the only experience that was not worth it. Seriously, we should have rode Dumbo instead.
Gonzo does it better.
Anyways, once that was over, that was when we did a big round of what I like to call the Magic Kingdom's animatronic shows. We started at the Enchanted Tiki Room and have some cheesy fun with Jose, Michael, Pierre, and Fritz, then hop to another personal favorite of mine, Country Bear Jamboree, which I was honestly a bit disappointed with how it was shortened and felt more rushed, on top of the heads being noisier than usual.
Hey, Henry, what's holding up? Let's get on with the show.
Now, both be patient.
Yeah, we ain't going anywhere anyhow.
And finally, we watched my family's favorite Carousel of Progress, thus finishing our round of seeing every Magic Kingdom animatronic show worth watching.
No.
However, there was another major restaurant we had to go. As we head out, we coincidentally got time to see the parade pass by and witness the iconic mechanical dragon in action. And then we got into a monorail so that we make it to Epcot, where our next meal awaited at Space 220. Much like Be Our Guest, the decor is beautiful, and it really felt like a space lover's dream. Not to mention the food was also fantastic. So I think it's safe to say that this was our best day in terms of our meals. After we returned to Earth, we didn't last long at Epcot, as we went back to the monorail and returned to the Magic Kingdom to once again watch Enchantment. There was still plenty of time, so I went and shopped around the Emporium and got to see the spectacular fireworks show for the final time, along with the surprise appearance from Tinkerbell, who wasn't there before. And I do mean that it was the final time, as we were coincidentally there on the final day of the show's performance and the last day that the Big 50 medallion was on display. And I'll be honest, beforehand, the thought of this trip being over soon was something I dreaded. I was loving my vacation so much that a part of me never wanted to leave. But after watching Enchantment again, there was something about it that made the ending feel okay, and to see it like a new beginning. If I'm gonna make my dreams come true like the show encourages me to, then I eventually have to go back home to make that happen. Honestly, this moment was what I needed for when the time comes. But that was not happening yet, because I still have one more full day to go. At this point, half of my family left to visit their Florida home, which included those with the DAS passes. So the other half, including me and my mom, decided to go spend another day at Disney's Hollywood Studios. We started out light around Toy Story Land and took a picture with Woody and Jessie, and then I had my round 2 of Toy Story Mania. I didn't do as well as last time, but I was close. Yet my cousin Nick beat us all with a pretty impressive score of around 165k. Afterwards, we went west for my third time of Muppet Vision 3D to experience it with more of my family, and honestly, I would have been down to go for a fourth time. And we went to lunch at Pizza Rizzo. It wasn't a high priority, but I was really happy on the inside to check out all the Muppet touches in the restaurant, and proud to say that I officially had rat pizza. Which was pretty good, actually. As we'd split up where some of my family wanted to see some shows, we walked around Hollywood Studios slowly realizing that there wasn't a whole lot left that we could do. Sure, we did go for another round of Star Tours and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, but the realization sank in that we've pretty much done virtually all the rides and don't have access to them like we used to. Not to mention that Disney World was getting increasingly crowded due to the spring break season, and the lineups were getting shockingly longer. I'll say now that a good amount of our time that day was just waiting around. By the time we had enough with going on rides, me, my mom, and my aunt went to Disney Springs for one more big round of shopping there. The moment for any last-minute gifts or purchases were at that time. And once we got our stuff, me and my mom wanted something quick and easy to eat, which was why we went to Splitsville and got some nachos. And from there, we returned to our hotel to pack our bags and be prepared for when we have to go the next day. However, this day wasn't over yet, because we had one more nighttime show to check out. So we returned to the Skyliner and headed back to Hollywood Studios to check out Fantasmic. Honestly, I feel like no visit to the Disney parks would be complete for me without watching the epic battle of Mickey versus the Maleficent Dragon. And it was an awesome final show to my trip, especially seeing the new additions like with Mulan, Elsa, Moana, and more. And at that final moment, I felt like my Disney vacation was complete. We were about to leave and looking around the shops, and then the voice appeared telling us about something happening on the Chinese theater. I completely forgot about all this, but we had a major surprise that we saw another nighttime show that honors the Disney movies projected on the building. We were left amazed that we got such an incredible bonus. But then they said another one was happening, all dedicated to animation. Maybe I'm a bit biased, but the animation show was one of the best things I've seen at Disney World. Out of everything in our trip, along with the room upgrade at the start, the best surprise for us was having our grand finale be not one, not two, but 3 nighttime shows. I don't know about you, but it's pretty hard to find something in here that would top that. And then came our final day. Our plane was scheduled for the night, so we still had some time to go to one more park. It wasn't easy finding one available, especially when it was on the day of Tron's official opening. So the best we could do was go to Epcot. So me and my mom grabbed our bags, said goodbye to our Cars-themed big room, and have one more go around the world. Funny enough, we both started at Canada Far and Wide to get a taste of what we were going back to. And I'll admit, seeing those familiar landmarks did encourage me to want to go back. We then checked around the shop in Japan that's filled with the country's pop culture merch like Studio Ghibli, Demon Slayer, Pokemon, Mario.
You can get Kirby stuff in Disney!
And as we continued walking around the world and seeing some of the cool stuff,
It is the American way.
we stumbled upon the China Pavilion where there is a little museum dedicated to Shanghai Disneyland, which was pretty cool to see what they did for that park and how it is so unique compared to the rest, including finding their version of Light Cycle Run. After that, we went into the Mexico Pavilion to go in one ride that my family skipped out on, the Grand Fiesta Tour, which is nice to see the upgrade they did at the start to add some cocoa into it and teach guests about Dia de los Muertos. And of course, as a Three Caballeros fan, I'm happy to be back in this ride and see the gang on their Mexican journey. Once we got done with the countries, we went in our last ride by visiting Figment again, although the screaming child behind us was unnecessary, and did one final round of shopping to be sure that we got everything we wanted. And so, with nothing else left to do, that was pretty much it. We headed back to grab our stuff and went on our voyage back home. I think it's safe to say that it was a bittersweet ending. Of course, I'm going to miss Walt Disney World, and I'm not going to wait another decade to go back. It will be sooner than that. But then again, I know we left at the perfect time, and looking back, what we've done was admirable at how we did so much in a short amount of time. Yes, there are some things we did not do, like the water parks and the Cirque du Soleil show. We can do that next time. But that still doesn't change that we managed to do everything else. On top of doing everything we wanted, we were able to go in the biggest and the best rides they got with ease and rode them twice, sometimes on the same day. And from there, some of the new stuff ended up becoming some of my favorites and the family's, like Tron, Cosmic Rewind, Rise of the Resistance, and Flight of Passage, along with returning to old favorites like Muppet Vision 3D. Would we be able to return and recreate what we just did? Probably not. And I'm sure Disney World won't be the same when we do return. But the fact that we've done what many would consider to be unthinkable, and the bonding we've done as a family, is what adds to the unforgettable memories we will carry for the rest of our lives. As both a vacation and as a Disney trip, there is no other way to describe it than being a magical moment.
And so, as you can see here, my Disney vacation has officially come to a close, and I definitely do feel like this is a pretty bittersweet ending, because there is no denying that I am going to miss Walt Disney World, and I definitely do feel like I wish to go back there one day, because it definitely was a lot of fun. But at the same time, it did its job as a vacation, and I completely feel rejuvenated from the entire experience. And I feel great to be back home. I feel great to be back in my office, and I definitely feel ready to get back to work, to go and make more videos. So, like I said, it definitely did its job on that. So, with that said, the adventure that you have seen over here, this is entirely dedicated to my family, to my mom, my aunts, my cousins, and more. Everyone who was all a part of this great adventure, and that we together as a family have formed some very unforgettable memories, and definitely some of the happiest times in our lives. I think we can all agree on that. And also, I want to give a huge shout out and a major thanks to Julia and Stephanie, my cousins, who were the master organizers of all this. We really couldn't have done everything that we have if it weren't for them. So, with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes.
Okay, and the last piece of recording is officially done. There we go. Well, since I'm here, I might as well go and pay my dues. Wonder how much I spent during my trip.